Right, hey guys, welcome back for some more Total War Warhammer 2, and I'm playing as Lizardmen. This is basically the gameplay we got to play when we went to Creative Assembly the other day. So we're playing on hard, and our challenge was to get up this hill, battle through the High Elves, reach the top. We have to kill the mages. There's High Elf mages in the mix at the top of that group of gigantic force above us. We've got basically these large monstrous units on the side. I've got a couple of spears, got my character in here, and we should get some reinforcements along the way. With Total War Warhammer 2, it's just as the same as with previous Total Wars in that you have a variety of different units. You've got your base units, you've got your holding units like your spears, you've got your melee units like your swords, axes, all this kind of stuff. And in terms of all the base elements, not a ton has changed compared to Total War Warhammer or even Total War before that. So you're still going to get that same kind of experience. The things that kind of have changed are, of course, obviously the magic in the game, and a lot of the skill stuff that we discussed previously on the other videos where they've kind of increased the skill cap. Some of the stuff on campaign as well, like increasing the amount of buildings you can have. So there's been a lot of kind of soft tweaks in there. Also the cool things with Total Warhammer 2 and with Total Warhammer is the fact that now you can obviously link up the two land masses, so you can play across that whole area on like Grand Campaign, all these kind of things. So we're playing on hard, and our challenge really here was to get anything better than a Pyrrhic victory, because this is a pretty rough battle. Mainly because you don't have an overwhelming force to begin with, and I don't have any ranged units to begin with. I've got these heavies and I've got my spear units, and I got my main sort of leading character right here, but I don't have anything other than that. We should get some reinforcements, but basically we discovered that kind of to get a kind of victory on this battle, because it's a rough battle, you have to sort of try and decimate these guys on the bridges without losing too many of your own units. If you lose too much at this stage, then you just don't have the strength to kind of bring it in. The other thing to do is you have obviously some delays usually whenever you have reinforcements, and the key is to obviously not kind of throw yourself against it. But you can see right now at the top bar, look, just how outnumbered I am. I mean, we're talking like 10 to 1 right here. It's really outnumbered and it's against us. The heroes and characters, as with previous Total War Warhammer though, are just as powerful, and you can see that my main character here, he's just stomping around and he's taking barely any damage whatsoever. He's just kind of wrecking through. So the characters and the heroes are just devastatingly powerful as they were previously. So they're like a really huge role to play, and they can present their own problems as well, depending on the kind of force you have, because those guys can get in there and wreck it. But if you get 2 or 3 units on one of those guys, you can sort of wear them down through attrition. But for example, look, my spear guys at the front here, they're doing a good job of holding, but they're really getting worn down hard. I mean, they're below 50% already. Not surprising, because they're facing like 3 other units, but there was not much I could do at that stage to get them in. But now we do actually have some ranged units, so I've got my large dinosaur artillery there. Those guys are going to be firing in on this. I was never like a massive Warhammer player, so I don't know offhand some of these unit names. I was always about Warhammer 40,000, so that was my thing on this, but it's all good. The Lizardmen are pretty awesome though. Like, I think if I was going to play a faction for Total War Warhammer 2, because currently of course we've got like Dark Elves, High Elves, Lizardmen, and we know probably Skaven, and yeah, I think Lizardmen is where I'd be at, because these guys are pretty epic. Also, I was just never kind of blown away by playing Elves, although hilariously in Warhammer 40,000 I love playing Eldar, so figure. Okay, so now you can see up here on the far left, see one of my monstrous guys over here, he's gone berserk. And you can actually see this, if you look on the unit roster down below, you can see those guys with the red flashing exclamation marks, and that means that those guys have gone berserk. So when they go berserk, they will basically go out of control, they'll just start running towards the enemy, and that really does present you with a pretty big problem, because sometimes you might have a valuable unit that you want to try and retain, but when they go berserk, they are just going to run off like that, go crazy, and to a point there's going to be very, very little that you can do about that. Now I'm just trying to move up my units here. You can see we've got big reinforcements. It's bringing us back a little way in this battle, but even now we're still below 50%, so we're still kind of outnumbered, so it's quite challenging. The real key in a battle like this, where I mean, look, we're losing, sort of not losing units, but we're taking some reasonable losses. Now the key, I think, whenever you have like a battle like this where you are outnumbered, and you're getting reinforcements, if possible, try to stagger your engagements. That's really the thing. You do not want to just charge in just sending one after another, because then it becomes like any game. It becomes even like an FPS game where you have an enemy with a really strong position, and then you're just going in one after one, and they're just going to churn you out. They're just going to wreck you every single time. So you've got to stagger how you move. You've got to bring those other units into contention. You've got to sort of create some kind of battle plan as you're going forward, and that's what I'm trying to do. You can see I've got another unit over there, that kind of large unit, and he's still up there harassing them. I've been keeping half an eye on that guy, but you know, he's just kind of doing his thing. The other thing you got to remember, there's one of the high elf units there that you can see using that fire breathing, with the dragon using his fire breath. So that's another thing they brought in with Total War Warhammer 2, so they can actually, like, the dragons breathe fire down on the units now, and that's going to be extended across to previous units from Total War Warhammer as well. So that's going to basically kind of backwards compatibility set that up. Taking down the dragon is a pretty important thing. So again, you can see my ranged units there just spamming in on that guy. So again here, I'm sort of battling a little bit, but they're bringing some of their units down to me. My units are coming forward at the same time, and I think one thing I probably could have done here is bring those units that are across that bridge, bring them up a little bit faster, because we got kind of... I was concerned about that dragon. I didn't want that dragon getting in the mix, but I should have brought those up a little faster, because now you can see some of the units that I have up here, although these guys are actually faring pretty well, because you can see these units here, these high elf units, they're pretty lightweight. I mean, they've got some archers in there, I think, and stuff. They're not really doing tons and tons of significant damage to me, and I'm just bringing the other force. I was very aware as well that, you know, you don't want to just send all your units up that hill. Once you cross that kind of halfway mark up the temple here, then that's when you're going to start getting engaged by the next set of units, the bigger force we can see waiting for me up on the hill there. And again, I want to make sure that when I go up that hill, I go up that hill with all of the units, so that again they're not just focus firing down a couple of my guys. And you can see I've managed to make 3 of the high elf units break right there, and that's without really even bringing any of those reinforcements into contention. And I've actually pushed up the balance between the 2 factions to 50% now, so things are going pretty decently for me. But the problem becomes for this game, and this battle anyway, is like once we get up to that top part, and just you'll see the amount of magic and the amount of firepower from the archers coming in. Those units which broke a minute ago, those high elf units, look, they've rallied, they're turning around and starting to fire back in again. But if you've never played Total War before, I think Total War Warhammer is probably more accessible even than some of the previous Total War games, because they've added a lot of new functionality, and you know, these games can be pretty challenging. But again, like I say, if you've never played before, the difference between easy and hard is quite significant. I mean, if you're playing this game on easy, you are already talking about, you know, 25% of the units down. It's kind of a ridiculous gap, but if you're just kind of learning the game and getting into it, then, you know, go for it. And the thing is as well, is like, obviously, like with any game, you're going to get people that are experts, you're going to get people that literally play this game day in, day out and play nothing else but the game. But it's a very enjoyable game if you just kind of want to sit down and play through. Same with the campaign. You know, it's like when you're just playing single player on this campaign, you can just have a really enjoyable time with that as well. The only thing that I will say in regards to that, though, is that I think, as I've mentioned before, with Total War campaigns, I mean, you can play through different factions, they have different side quests, different things like this going on, and sometimes that can get a bit stale because it gets quite samey over time. But I think that will change. I think they said that they've made a significant effort to try and make every playthrough play differently in Total War Warhammer 2, and they've added a lot of other stuff like kind of side quests and you know, the kind of treasure hunting and finding out different stuff about different towns and all these kind of things, and also the fact that they have the sort of faction-specific terrain. So we mentioned about kind of having desert or temperate or jungle, and how different factions perform well in those different conditions. So again, that'll be another thing which kind of plays in, and how that's going to change up your campaign, how that's going to change up your decisions, the kind of things that you may have to deal with in terms of, you know, overreaching your mark, and then maybe sort of, you know, bringing in different buildings in those towns and centres to sort of actually counteract these kind of things. So yeah, a lot of stuff going on. Now you can see, look, I have still not moved up the hill. Okay, I've still been waiting and waiting and waiting. Now, a couple of reasons for this. One, I'm just waiting to see whether I can get any further reinforcements. Two, and here we go, start to move up now. Two is that I was still trying to weaken and finish off these other couple of units that were just sitting here on the lower end, because anything I could do at that point to sort of try and wither them down a bit further just before we go for this push. But I've just decided, look, these ranged units that are sitting here, these archers, they're just kind of wearing us down. We need to get on the move. So I've got some faster moving units, as you can see, sitting up here on the left hand side, and that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to flank around with these guys. Whether or not they actually manage to get to make a flank, but I just want to kind of, there we go, create like an arrow in there so that I can push those guys across. Okay, here we go. So now we start to see, this is the thing that's the problem for us. You can see the massive volley of ranged fire now coming, and there's a lot of units here. You know, I mean, look at the top in terms of the faction balance. It's still 50-50. So even after the whole initial engagements we had there, we're still talking about a 50-50 engagement, and then they've got like 2 mages in there as well, so there's a lot to contend with. I've got my ranged units, trying to get those in, trying to flank these around. They've got a little bit of cavalry of their own, as you can see here. These guys are coming in, and bear in mind these units are full strength. My guys have already had to battle for ages, so they're kind of worn down 50%. I've got at least, I don't know, a third of my units are not at full strength at this point in time, so it's not exactly like the best situation for me. And again, I've got some cold ones still waiting. That's, you can see the spell on the right hand side. That's some units that I can call in, but there we go, look, just getting those in. So those cold ones, they're basically like a spawnable unit. There you go, you see them spawning right there in the middle with that magic spell. And they're very much, it's a similar thing to like zombies in Total War Warhammer, so they're a unit which will just be generated in. And again, you know, a conversation I had with a couple of the guys there on the day was, you know, do people think it's unfair? Is it frustrating having these kind of spawnable units, having some of the magic spells in the game, when previously, of course, Total War did not have that? And does that change up people's gameplay, the process, the decisions that they make in the game? And, you know, really the answer to that is, well, all factions kind of have those sort of things going on for them, and it's one of those things that you just have to be aware of coming in. Okay, so now we've got these... we've got the flying units coming in here, and these guys again will be able to bomb. So what I'm doing is, look, I've selected my unit, I'm waiting for this guy to come over, and I'm going to try and time my bombs to do maximum damage. There we go, drop those bombs down. Okay, and we did some good damage on a couple of those units right there. And now, if I can, sort of try and flank them around. Now, I've got one other flying unit which I did not bomb yet, so I've got this guy right here, so I've got to try and bring him back around to get back on those guys again. But you can see I've got several units kind of breaking down there at the rear, but we're doing okay, and I would say that I'm inching towards just a little bit over 50% control here. Now I'm bringing back my bombing units again, and there we go, drop those bombs, and that's done some good damage there on those units in the middle, some good damage. Now with the flying units as well, they can still do a ranged attack, or you can turn their melee on and they can kind of get down in. Here's, look, one of those magic spells coming in here, like the fire. Here we are, it's the Phoenix, watch this. You can see that spell, look how far that goes for, and if you have a line of units, or if you have a concentrated bunch of units all fighting, that could be an extremely devastating attack. But happily for me, they kind of called that one in wrong. I don't think it really did significant damage to me. But even now you can see this is where you start to get into that Pyrrhic victory situation, because my units are tired, they've been fighting for ages, the guys up on top of the hill were fresh, they hadn't been running around all over the place. I've lost one of my guys, he's run all the way back up here. Again, with previous Total War as well, you always have that classic thing of making sure that the units chasing after other units is disabled, because otherwise you will, like this guy over here, you get into a situation, if you miss that, which I did right here, they will just chase after other units, and that's like that's a bad thing. You can toggle that off by default if you want, so that you will only be able to chase after units manually, so that's just a personal preference. But okay, so we're starting to take control of things here, but you can see, like, at this point, what happens is you have units breaking, you have units running all over the place, and this is where it starts to get a little bit dangerous, because when a unit breaks, it will obviously run away. When it rallies, it's going to be ready to come back into the battle. The trouble is, though, it might have run quite a significant distance away before it rallies and starts to come back again. That means that other units on the ground are having to contend with less support. It also means that other unit, Phoenix is coming back in here again, it also means that unit has to travel that distance to get back in. That's again going to tire them, so the units are all getting pretty exhausted at this point. But you can see as well, we had those mages we had to kill. Those guys were down there in the middle, and we are just starting to win this one. You can see the units are breaking. A lot of the high elf units are broken right here, I think, because we managed to destroy. There's one of the last mages Phoenix coming down again. So I'm just sending, look, all my units towards the mage to try and finish him off, and then hopefully that'll be the end of this one for me with a win on this battle. So that's Total War Warhammer 2. That's my first look at this game, first play of this game, and as with Total War Warhammer, it's looking really nice. I think even the graphics are a little bit better with this game, so it is looking pretty fantastic. Obviously Skaven confirmed as our 4th faction as well, which is really cool. So hopefully I'll have some more bits and pieces coming up with this game in the future, guys, but as for now, that's Total War Warhammer 2. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.